Hello and welcome to my review of the ASRock A75 Pro4 MVP motherboard. This motherboard is released sometime around 2012 and the year is 2022, so this is about 10 years later looking back at this motherboard. The first thing to note is, of course, it's made by ASRock. It has A75 chipset and it is for socket FM1, which is, I believe, the first APU socket for AMD. With the, I believe AM5 still accepts APUs in a way. This motherboard is, of course, almost full-size ATX. It does seem like it's a little bit short on the end. I think if it was another inch or so longer in this dimension, it would be full-size ATX, but the length of it definitely is. Now, unfortunately, I don't have any original accessories, so there is no unboxing. So just bear with what I know right now. We have 4 DDR3 slots. It supports DDR3 1866, and that's also printed on the motherboard very nicely. Maybe I'll be able to get a shot of that, but probably not. Well, we'll see how that works. There's a nice little silkscreen diagram, which I have a very good feeling is not going to focus. No, it's not. It's labeled A1, A2, B1, B2. So I believe that means 2 sticks go here, and then you populate all 4 if you have 4 sticks, or some other combination, which you probably shouldn't be running. Of course, 24-pin power connector for the board. We have a 8-pin or 2 4 pins, depending on how you want to look at that, for the CPU. Although, I don't know if you actually need to have both sides or all 4 populated. We have CPU 1 and 2 headers. The first one is 4-pin, the other is going to be a 3-pin. We have power fan header. I believe that is a legacy holdout for some power supplies. We have 2 chassis fan headers here. It looks like these are 2 and 3. Those are 3-pin connectors. And down here at the bottom we have another fan header, and this is 4-pin, and that looks like, yeah, chassis fan 1. I guess I'll go over the I/O real quick here. We have 2, it looks like 2 by PCI Express slots. We have 2 16, physically, I guess 16 slots, although this one is only wired at what I believe to be 4x or 4 times, however you want to see that. And we have 3 PCI slots, PCI 133, I do believe those are. ASRock opted for a sliding mechanism here, which has a little, if you can hear that, it'll lock into place. Lock. So we got both of those. It looks like it supports Crossfire, although no SLI support officially. Here's the CMOS battery standard, CR2032. Over here we have the heatsink for the chipset, the A75 chipset. What is that called? Looks like it's called Hudson D3, if I'm reading that right. The Fusion chipset, however, something like that. I don't remember what it's called. I guess other little things on the board. This is going to be the BIOS. Over here is the audio, and over here is the LAN, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go over the back I/O real quick. We have a PS2 mouse and keyboard combo port. I don't know if that can be split out or not. Maybe. We have 2 USB 3 ports here, 3.0, as it was called when it was released. I think that's gotten complicated. We have VGA. We have dual link DVI. I believe that would be DVI-D, because you cannot use an adapter such as this one to convert to VGA, because it doesn't have little crosshairs in there for analog. We have HDMI, and I believe it says 1.4a is the revision. A nice little clear CMOS button in the back, which you can take literally or sarcastically. As long as you're not poking around back there, you should be fine. It can actually be nice. We have 2 USB 2.0 ports, Firewire 400, eSATA, 2 more USB 3.0 ports, giving us a total of 4 on the back. Gigabit Ethernet, and the audio out. That's standard audio out. I believe that's microphone, audio in, subwoofer, and rear speakers, if I got that correct, and SPDIF or SPDIF, however you want to pronounce that. This board, the build quality seems pretty good, especially for a board, which was for, I guess, lower end CPUs, if you want to see it that way. These all look to be solid state capacitors. We do have a heatsink up here and down there, both of which seem to be made fairly well. This design does seem to be somewhat similar to the ones today, minus extra shrouds and LEDs. There are no LEDs on this motherboard. And I guess if we move down here, actually real quick, this is a 4+1 design, 4 VRMs or something like that for the motherboard, and then 1 for the RAM, if I'm not mistaken, and I do believe that these guys were related to them. Alright, back down here. So if I just go down here and maybe drop the camera down. Alright, so down here we have HD audio, we have front FireWire, which is i394. We have a little jumper there labeled HDMI, and that does HDMI SPDIF or SPDIF header is that one. We have a blank for TPM. Over here we have a COM port, should be for serial. We have USB 2.0 up there, here, and here. We've got a total of 6 ports. Down here below it we have an IR header you can plug into, and we have another IR header over here. Here is a power LED header if you have a 3 wide power LED for the front header, otherwise the standard layout here, which is followed by, I think, all manufacturers except ASUS, because they like to be different. Pretty standard. You got power LED on top, bottom is hard drive LED, then power button and reset button, and that's just a little dummy pin at the very end. We have a PC speaker where you can plug into. I don't know if this board came with it because I don't have any of the original accessories, minus the I/O shield, which I will show. But if you want a speaker, you have to plug one in. Whichever way around it goes, I don't think it actually matters. Nice features here. We have Dr. Debug, as ASRock calls it, which is just a LED debug on the motherboard. It can be useful for diagnosing things, although I suppose you could also do it by beep codes or just trial and error. We have 2 buttons here. They do glow when Dr. Debug is lit up, but they're off when Dr. Debug is off. We got power and reset. I do like having that on motherboards. And on the back here we have 5 SATA 3 6 sorry, SATA version 3 6 gigabit connection ports. It looks like it goes order of the bottom is 1, top 2, bottom 3, top 4, and then it's 5. And this 5th port should not interfere with any graphics cards that you may have installed. And I do believe that's it for the back here. I guess I'll show off the I/O shield, even though it's not really anything fancy. That's what it looks like. It's very bland, actually, especially compared to the standard Pro4 version of this motherboard, I think. So I think I should get this set up, put a few parts in here, and get on. Alright, so I figured I'd go over the setup real quick, the configuration I have. Of course, the motherboard in question, PC speaker plugged in. I have just a standard SATA cable and a cheap SSD here for the OS install, running off of Ethernet. It's a gigabit connection back to the router at least. VGA I'm using. This is just power for the capture. A USB mouse and keyboard. An old AMD heatsink with a 630 something hundred, 3600, 3500, something like that, and 8 gigabytes of RAM, I do believe, running a dual channel. So that's the setup. Alright, so if I just start up the board here really quick, you'll be able to see the splash screen for the BIOS, and this is the same across at least version 1.2 to version 1.4, which is the latest, which is what I have installed. You can see here it's a standard ASRock UEFI BIOS from this era. It gives you the basic information here. The overclock tweaker, although I don't think I can do a whole lot, as I think I need a unlocked CPU, although looks like I can change a few things here if I wanted to. I don't. I'm going to put that back. You have all your standard configurations here. An instant flash. Obviously I can't flash anything because I don't have a BIOS to flash installed. The hardware monitor, pretty standard. It looks like, yeah, so chassis fan 1 and the CPU 1 and 2 fans can have an automatic mode set. The others are manual. You can manually adjust the level. I have changed the CPU mode, the fan mode, and I've changed this timeout. Everything else, well, for the most part everything else is the same. I set that to EFI compatible because you can install UEFI or BIOS legacy installs. That's the UEFI, and I'll get into Windows here and we can look at the utilities for this motherboard. Alright, so starting into Windows, I've installed the utilities. We can see XFast LAN is open down here by default. Looks like it might be having some trouble. I'm just going to close that. The first one I'm going to start with is the ASRock Extreme tuning utility, and these are all the latest versions as of 2022. I don't think any of these have been updated since probably 2013 though. So this is pretty standard ASRock Extreme tuning utility. It'll give you your information, clock speed, the temperature, the fan RPM, voltages. You can change the fan RPM in here. You can do some overclocking here. These, I believe, are profiles that you can save for overclocking, although I don't know if those actually save to the BIOS or not. And you have the IES, Intelligent Energy Saver. I haven't tried this a whole lot. I've not tried it on this board. On other boards, I've briefly messed with it, and I don't actually know if it does anything, but I've had it lock up the system a couple times, so maybe that was just a bad install on my part. Tuning utility is pretty standard. XFast USB, that's going to be open down here. That's LAN. XFast USB. This is what the actual UI looks like. And if you insert a USB drive, I will grab this one for Linux. If I just put that in here, you don't actually have to use XFast USB. We can see it's come up here. If I just give it a moment here, it'll configure something. Oh, UAC. Alright, disconnect and reconnect. And I should also say you probably don't need this window open. I'm just showing. And now turbo mode is enabled, whatever that may mean. Maybe files can be written faster. I don't know. And the files are there. So I'm just going to close out of that and pull out my USB drive. Alright, I'll go over to XFast LAN at this point, and there we go. It seems to be functioning correctly. These are all toggles for showing, I guess, the network traffic down here on this little graph. If I open up Internet Explorer, you can see we got a little bit of web activity, I guess send total and receive total. If I just go to DuckDuckGo, you can see it'll do a little bit more. If I go to ASRock, if I go to the site for this specific motherboard, there it is. You can see we get a little bit more traffic. And if we look through here, it looks like you can probably configure a whole lot of things in here. Preferences, yeah. Presumably you can filter things out. I don't know enough about this, and I haven't looked into it enough to really know a whole lot about what that does. But this one I believe will show, yeah, the current connection. So if I go back to MSN, you can see it is loading up a whole bunch of stuff. I'll just close out of that, and then I can also probably blur that. I believe you can skin it. We open this up. Yeah. I think you can change the look of it. Yeah, Metro skin. I don't know if that's just, yeah. Presumably you can skin it. I don't actually know, because I don't typically deal with those utilities. Yeah. Oh, speed test. Oh, I see. Okay. And then there's another utility on here, part of this motherboard actually, the VertU MVP, although I don't have it configured correctly. This is probably something I'll dive into at a later date. And then just, of course, the control panel from AMD. This is nothing specific to this motherboard as far as I'm aware, but it was part of the downloads. So that's it for the software side. Alright, so there we have it with the ASRock A75 motherboard there. It's kind of, maybe it's kind of interesting for you, maybe not. I think there's quite a bit that actually hasn't changed over the years, and then there's also plenty that has. But this is the end of the, I guess, review part of this video, so feel free to leave at this point. If you do, thank you for watching. But right now I'm going to get into, I guess, some miscellaneous details here, right? So maybe you're wondering why would I review a 10-year-old motherboard, also, let alone without having all the parts. And the answer to that is I didn't see any other reviews of this motherboard. I saw one of a variant of it, just a regular Pro4, but not this one. And I figured, heck, why not? I might do a comparison with the other motherboard, and I have quite a few different computer parts here, and I thought maybe it would be interesting to go back and do reviews of sorts on things that I have that have not been reviewed. Now whether I do it as a review of that era or today, I don't know. This is just a trial run, right? It's the first one I've done. If you haven't figured that out, I guess I don't know when you're watching this. But I figured I'd give that a try, and feedback is, of course, always welcome. And I have plenty of other things to try out. That's just some of them. That's just so I could pan up there, but I got way more than that, right? So if you're interested in other reviews or testing or whatever, I'm okay with doing that. Believe it or not, this takes a while to do. Not, geez, I don't know when I last posted a video. Not months and months long, but longer than I'd like to take. I was editing this video, and I guess I'll just add this as a little note here. This is a clear CMOS jumper. I saw I missed that. I also saw that the capture quality was worse than I thought it was, so I apologize for that. I can try to iron things out in the future, but given my production quality, I really don't want to go back and fix that right now and have to re-record that whole thing. It's taken many tries to get this. I could have blooper reels way longer than the actual video, but I'm not going to post that. So yeah, if this is something you like, let me know. Otherwise, I can do a lot of other things. So this is the actual end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.